Hello, six pack. I am Sparky, and I really need water, first of all, but um, but that can wait. Um, Welcome to my first art class stream. I say first, but my first planned out fully art class stream. Um, oh gosh. Okay, let me turn my camera on for one moment. Okay. I do believe I'm already sharing my screen, but you can't see that yet. You can only see my computer screen right now. Um, what I'm gonna have to do is pull up my chat in on my phone. Hello. All right. No, the stream like just started, so you're good. Um, okay. Um, okay. I'm just reading through chat here. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about shape and form. I feel like it's the best starting place. Um, oh fiddle. Um, okay. Fiddle. No, this is meant to be a place for everyone, and that appears on the screen. Please, let's try to keep this chat child friendly at least, because this one is rated E. Um, oh no, I'm sorry. I hope you feel better. Okay, so I'm gonna be switching between the chat on my phone and the little notes I have for myself. They're very vague notes. But anyway, let's get started. I'm doing well, thank you. How are y'all doing? I took the frame off there. What I intended to do was this, and then this, not remove the the frame of everything. All right. So let's do full screen. All right, and I'm gonna pull up chat here. If you have any questions as this goes on, please ask me. I am very willing to answer. Um, oh, you're good. Um, okay. So let me pull up my notes because for some reason I closed Discord. I don't know why I did that because Discord is where I have my notes. Okay. All right. So the first thing I want to talk about is breaking down reference. So uh, first off, let's start with reference. Reference. Sometimes you'll hear people, usually non-artists, be like, if you use reference or are looking at something as you're drawing, that's cheating. And no, no, that's stupid. Um, do you think that like classical artists drew the people in their portraits by looking at them once and never looking at them again? It's not, art doesn't have to be a memory challenge. Reference is very good. Um, so I very much encourage, like, one second, let me just do this so I can lower the opacity and it doesn't get rid of the black background. Okay. Okay. So first off, reference good. Reference is how you learn to improve. Um, like reference can literally be sometimes in school they'll have you draw some object that is sitting in front of you. Oftentimes in art classes it'll be like a bowl of fruit or something. That's reference. That's not reference good. um hey, that's valid. If that's why I like to do this, because I heard numerous people just today already saying like I've been struggling with art. So I was like, okay, you know what? Art class. um all right. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anything. Oh, E stands for everyone. So I'm just reading chat here. Okay. All right. So now that we've established reference good, I'm gonna turn down the opacity here so you can see my brush a bit better. I'm gonna do, what's a color that's not used on this? I'm gonna go with green. Can be a bit hard to see. You know, I'll go with, how's green? All right. I like to use like a very toothy, textury brush because it is 11:11 for me. Yeah, it was a second ago there. Um, because it keeps me from being too precious with my lines. It makes me feel like I don't have to be as careful. I also like to do 2 pixel wide lines, but those are just my settings. Those aren't really anything special. Yes, you were one of them. I do. I think it's a very fun idea. Yes, a toothbrush. All right. So this is a drawing of Ennard I did, or a redesign, I guess. And a good way to learn how to draw things is by breaking down the shapes in them, especially things like anatomy, which this is very heavily inspired by. Um, so eyes, them's just be big circles. That's an oval. Them's just be big circles. I can draw a circle. Okay. And then behind the mask here, I did a sketch behind the mask, so I got the anatomy right. They're just circles. This one's a little misshapen, actually, but in the sketch, it was a circle. Eyes, they're circles, you know? Um, I can. There. I did it. I did the funny haha for you. Okay. Um, no. um, language is really weird. Um, and then the mask, uh, we're gonna pretend this part of the mask is down just because it makes it a bit easier to do the symmetry. Um, tops of heads are very circle. And then on the inside with the skull shape here, it's another circle. And then we have a sort of, not quite a rectangle, I forget the name of the shape, where it gets wider toward one side. And the teeth, actually, they're more curved triangles, but triangles, you know? Lipstick, that's just 2 triangles. Kind of hard to see, but. And we'll get to why I incorporated a lot of sharp edges and triangles in here. Eyebrows, kind of like an arched triangle, you know? And that makes it a lot like taking note of all of these shapes. And I was going like skull shape. Skull shape, it's another one of these shapes. Um, and there's also nose triangle, you know? Um, just breaking it down into small shapes is how I and most artists like get things done. Oh, here's some very good examples of shapes. Here's an oval, here's a triangle, a circle, you know, another oval, a circle. Yeah, lots of shapes, and shapes are what help you break things down. And with the body, it's yeah, um, everything can be broken down into basic shapes. Um, and it gets a bit more complicated when we're looking at things in a 3D space, but we'll get to that in a bit, and a tip I have heard to help with that. But yeah, breaking down reference, uh, that is really good with not just shape, but even if you're learning poses, um, like, and foreshortening, and how, uh, like, how shapes work at different angles, like, sort of tracing over it, figuring out how those shapes work, and then going and redrawing it based on those shapes. Absolutely, it's a very helpful way to practice, I find. Um, all right, so what am I doing there? I don't want to change my tab there. I want to change my tab here. Okay. So, are there any questions on that? Everything can be broken down into very simple shapes. I mean, sometimes the shapes aren't as simple. Like for me, whenever I'm doing like a collarbone, I do like this type of a shape, like it goes up and then like that. Which really it's just part of a triangle, but yeah. Thank you, Benny. Layers. Oh my gosh, I should do a little digital art guide. I guess I can talk about that in another art class, but layers are essentially uh how to describe this? You can think of them as like layers of sometimes in animation they put down these like clear sheets of plastic, or I don't think paper is the right word. Just clear sheets to draw on. And that's essentially what layers are. So like if I if I draw the head here, let's just do a very I don't know how to draw Queen Deltarune, but I was going for Queen Deltarune here. But if we do this and then we put a smile like, oh no, I actually wanted that the head to be a bit wider to fit with how that smile is. You can go back to another layer and uh, like it will make it so you don't erase things on the previous layer, like different layers. Each layer is basically its own canvas, its own sheet of paper that you can mess with individually. Um, oh, hello. All right. And something, this is just something else with digital art. Um, let's, okay, this is a bad brush to do this with, but let's just scribble here. All right. So that's the same layer. I didn't realize I was on the same layer there. I just spit on my screen. Gross. Okay. So let's say we want not we want cyan to go over, that's cyan's a bad color here. We want blue to go over this green, but we don't want it to get onto the black. How do we do that? Well, there's two ways, at least in this program, and most programs have something similar. Um, so you can do a clipping layer, and it will it if you take the clipping layer off, like you're still scribbling over the black, but it only shows up on the green. Um, and the other option is a lock layer or it goes by so many different names. In this app, it goes by alpha block, but if you want to do it just on the layer, then it gives the same effect, but it won't be you won't be able to like go back and edit it later or anything. That's why I prefer clipping, because clipping makes it so you can go back and edit it later. But if you're confident on like where you're putting the colors, then clipping's fine. Not clipping, sorry. Lock is fine. Anyway, um, not all drawing programs have that, but most do. Um, like one that doesn't is Microsoft Paint. That one does not have layers, as there's nothing transparency wise that really works on there. But most programs do. All right. So all right, shape language. Let's if no one has any more questions about like breaking things down into different shapes, we can move on to shape language. We'll come back to this edit example in a bit. There's so little MSF, yeah, MSM, sorry, MS Paint. All right. So when it comes to the three like main shape language shapes that everyone talks about, circles, squares, and triangles, there are three characters I immediately think of, and those are garnet, amethyst, and pearl. And these shapes usually mean different things. They can mean a number of things, but at least in this instance, garnet is a very oh, that's a big brush. Let's draw a quick garnet here. All right. Let's okay. It's hard to draw her quickly because her hair is so 3D. Because like you have to take in mind that it's in a 3D space. We'll get to that in a moment. Um, but Garnet, very square character, especially her season 1 design, which cubes. Okay, so here we have a very rough, quick Garnet. Um, in this case, the squares can mean stability, or like someone, a character who is very strong and will hold things in place. Um, and obviously, Garnet is made up of many squares and rectangles. Her head, that's a square. Her visor, despite having triangles at the bottom, that's a square. Her hair, that is a like a cube or more of a rectangular prism, but her shoulders in season 1, those are cubes. Shape language. And another example is Pearl. She is very pointy, very sharp. Pointy and sharp usually means someone who is very, uh, someone who's more likely to call things out, someone who's more likely to, um, like, be able to have more of a temper, someone who can be a bit antagonistic, um, someone who is very on edge. So let me pull up a quick Pearl here. This is a very, very rough Pearl. A very, very rough Pearl. I haven't drawn Pearl in a minute, if you can't tell. We don't need her eyes. They're not important. She doesn't need to see. We just need the basic stuff. It's a very bad Pearl, I'm sorry, but Pearl. There we go. Pearl is obviously... Wait, let me even... what's her season 1 outfit look like? I feel like that has some points on it somewhere, right? Steven Universe, Pearl. Let me look up a reference quick. I'm looking for her very early design. I'm struggling to find her very early design. Wait, I saw it for 1 second and I immediately scrolled away. Okay. Oh, her spear, by the way, even. Very pointy. Okay. So, oh, I threw my pencil at myself. Okay. Alright, let's just do a quick... Okay. Whatever, it doesn't matter that much. Okay. She has a ribbon and like a skirt type thing going on. And the skirt itself, like accessories, just like garnet shoulder pads, can show shape language as well. Skirt, triangular. Nose, triangular. Hair, many triangles. Sometimes there's even 2 triangles right here. Point here, point here, point here, point here. And then there's a point here, a point here. Pearl, very pointy. Meanwhile, Amethyst is made up of many circular shapes. Although she too has a few points with the hair, but to be fair, that's hair. But those points can also show that she can have a bit of a temper sometimes on occasion. Maybe not as much as Pearl, because she's not made up of like mostly triangles, but she still is able to get to that point. Did I get an amethyst here? Very, very rough amethyst. You know, we'll just do that. Okay. Her eyes themselves are even circles. Okay. And then a lot of times in season 1, her hair is drawn with like a round. This is a very rough, bad looking amethyst, I know, but it's just to get the point across. Lots of circles when it comes to amethyst. Later on, they draw her more with her hair being kind of like this, but in season 1, it's very round, I suppose. Okay. And of course, like I said, the eyes are pretty much always circular with amethyst. There's always like a circle, or like earlier in the seasons at least, sort of framing her eye. I think I might have got the eyes backwards, which way the bangs go. Her head is a circle. Her hair is very circular with shape, very rounded. Her body is just 2 circles. I live here, basically. But yeah, shape language. They can tell you a lot about characters. And once you sort of learn shape language, you can use that to your advantage and make people get an impression about a character just purely based on their design. Like for example, my character, I have 2 characters who are very pointy, but both for very different reasons. I am struggling with Tyler's nose here. Give me a second. Okay. Okay. That's a terrible Tyler. It's a very rough, very quick Tyler, but okay. So it's a very, like I said, very rough, very quick, just to sort of, oop, what's it? What, Jap, what? Okay. Anyway, um, wait, autocorrect? Steven Unicorn? Okay. I love that. Okay. And then I'll pull up another one of my pointier characters. It's hard to draw things quickly. How fangs? Okay. Alright. Characters, woo. Okay. So, with my 2 OCs, shapes are, oh. You can use shapes to sort of, give, like, an impression of a character before the character ever gets to say or do anything. And you can use that to your advantage when creating characters, such as with my character Dubs. He is very angular, many triangles, just an incredible amount of triangles, so pointy. And then, like, that is very true about his personality. Like, he's very, oh, his eyebrows even. His eyes are even meant to be kind of angular. But then we get my character Tyler, who does have many triangles. However, it's more to subvert expectations. It, like, the character is very demon-like, the character is very sharp, the character has so many angles. But it's all to sort of give you an impression of the character, to sort of show more what the, I guess, species he comes from is like. Despite the fact that if you look at, like, he always has a more calm expression on his face, and he is a very chill character. And it sort of is like an intentional subverting of the triangles, like to sort of tell you about the species, but to also show that in contrast to the shapes, the character's not at all as like pointy and angry as you would think just by looking at the design. And that's what's fun about knowing art rules. Once you know them, you can break them to do amazing things. Like, you can subvert expectations. Like, if there's a character who is like a twist villain, you could um, have them be very square and round, and then people wouldn't expect as much for them to be the villain. Yeah, that's like the whole thing there. Exactly. Once you learn the rules, you can, as Benny says, smash it. Smash the rules. Um, thank you for that lovely wording, Benny. Um, not always. It's just a very helpful tool for creating characters and giving an idea just by looking at the design. Because, like, um, sometimes you're just making a character and don't really think much about it, which is fine. That's completely valid. It's just this really helps to get a personality across before the character actually says or does anything, if that makes sense. Okay, so if we don't have any questions, I can move on to 3D space and form. I mean, oh dear. Oh, you're good. You're fine. Okay. If we go back to Ennard, my beloved, they're such a fun character idea. Um. Anyway, so if we go back to Ennard, form is things in a 3D space, and we'll get more into how to make things. Sorry, how to make things look 3D later, like in another one. But I see. um, but form is sort of thinking of things in a 3D way, or else just how they take up the space on the page. Um, oh, thank you. I'm running out of time apparently. Let's try to fly through this before this is over. So, it's really hard to describe how to think of things in a 3D way. You kind of just have to draw from reference a bit, and until you sort of can just think of things in a more 3D space. I recommend starting with just shapes and like rotating them in like different dimensions. Like, here could be a cylinder, but then here could also be a cylinder, but so could this. That's all form stuff, all like 3D shapes. Form is thinking of like shapes as 3D space. So once again, breaking it down into shapes. But here we're thinking of it in like a 3D. So the mask is a sphere at the top, at least. I guess it's facing slightly down, but same thing with the nose. And then the button, that is two very rounded cylinders. And I mentioned I would give a little tip to help with form if you are having trouble thinking about it. So this also kind of helps with perspective and foreshortening at times. Say we want to draw this hat. This is a pretty simple thing to start with. So like just directly from the front, it's a cone, sort of a rounded cylinder, more of a donut shape really, but and a sphere. So then how do I do this? If you're trying to sort of think about like drawing it from more from the top, uh, something that helps is thinking about like draw where the camera would be, and then sort of think about like what would block what. So this sphere would block out everything behind it. So if we were to, it's gonna be pretty hard. We do still see a little bit of the cone down here. We just don't see a lot of it from behind. So you can see that would be kind of like this. And then we can see the rim of the hat from, not much from under this, but a lot from the rest of the area. And then if we were to draw lines to sort of show where the shapes go. There's the cone, if it helps you. And then there's the sphere. It's a really weirdly drawn sphere. And then the more donut type shape. Oh. Wait, which eye? Okay. The green eye is supposed to be blue. Which one? Oh. That's fine. Some models as well. This isn't like a perfect example, I know, but it's just drawn in a rush. Like it would have been better to probably start with the sphere. Something else that helps is to draw, like in 3D shapes, draw from the middle of it how high up you want it to go. If that makes sense. It's yeah. Yeah, that's really what you have to do with art. Just mess around until you figure stuff out. That's really a lot of what it is, just messing around with stuff. A lot of the lighting here, it was just messing around with colors until I got it to the way I liked. Um, it's a lot of, I guess, push and pull. All right. Uh, Another way to sort of figure out how this mask would work, we could draw a circle. Right here's the head, and the mask would be slightly rounded, but would also slightly overlap the face. So it'd be like this, and then it'd be like a divide here. So then this would be the open part of the mask. And then the jaw would sort of come out just a bit more, I think, maybe jaw. And think the party hat would be like right around here, sort of pointing a bit backwards. Draw it from like a top-down angle can sort of, drawing it from a top-down angle kind of helps sometimes. And then just figuring out where things are in reference to each other in a 3D space, basically, is what the purpose of that is. And you don't have to do that every time or anything like that. It's just something that can help if you're having trouble, basically. Oh, I am sorry. I wish I had some sort of advice to help. Okay. Are there any questions on anything that we've talked about today? In this stream, at least. We've talked about shape and form, breaking down things from reference, shape language, and form being in a 3D space. And of course, if anyone has any questions, I'm very happy to answer in the comments as well. If you didn't happen to make it to the live, like the live stream itself, and only made it to the VOD, like whatever, that's fine. I can go over examples of how I do that in my MSM art quick. Here, let me just, here, we'll grab this monster from Palm Island. Ignore the fact that I'm leaking an island of mine. Okay. So let's grab them. Okay. And I recommend learning things like start with shape and then go to form after that. Because shape is a better place to start, and then form is where you sort of look at more 3D shapes. And more 3D shapes are really what you're going to want to be using in your art. That's what makes things look more 3D. Like this is a very rounded cone. You can't really see it here, but she is a, well, not she. They are a, like sort of a, I don't know how to describe this shape. It's a cylinder with a spherical end. That is interesting. Don't think about that too hard, please. And then a bunch of cones. Here we have spheres and then cylinders. And with, you can very clearly see the cylinders because the lines really show that. Cylinders for these, spheres for the eyes, and this goes over them. This is a, I don't even know how to describe this shape here, this. But it's a 3D shape. Like, if you follow the curve, it does that, you know? Sort of think about curves in reference to each other. It really helps with shading later on. Here we have, once again, more rounded cones. Lips are complex shapes, honestly. I hate drawing lips so much. They're very difficult for me. Some bent cones. Oh, quick note in reference to eyes. Eyes are not 2D. Like right here is, here's the eyeball, here's the iris, and then inside of that is the pupil. It's like it all goes in a bit each time, so there is a bit of depth to eyes. So like, let me see if I can draw an eye like this. See how it's not directly in the center? It's because there's a bit of depth there. Form. Yeah. I saw that the timer was going down there. I had to rush there at the end. But yeah, that is shape and form. Do we have any last minute questions before we end here? No questions? Once again, if you think of any, feel free to write a comment below. if you didn't happen to make it for the live stream itself while it was still live. If you want answers, and you are here from the VOD or something, like, that's fine. I'm always willing to answer. And if it's something that maybe is a little too complex to answer in a comment, I can always answer at the end of another stream. I do have the next stream planned out, so before I go, I will ask, would you like that to be like now, or would you prefer that another day? Sorry, someone said draw a potato. I'm saying no. Now, okay. All right, so I'm gonna end this stream because I would like them to be separated into streams and each be less than an hour, preferably each. Aw, well, thank you. I think you're absolutely lovely as well. So I'm going to go and end this stream and start the next one. I might have to gather some images in between, maybe draw something up quick, but let me see what the next one is quick. The next one will be value and lighting. Okay, we did talk about that a little bit. I think I'll just keep Ennard as my reference for that. But goodbye. I'm missing the mute button so many times. Okay, there.